Hey guys, did I ever tell you about the time that I was turned into a mermaid? Yeah, so that was a really fun event. So it all happened one nice morning when I went to Seaworld with my class, actually my college class, and it's a cognitive science animal cognition class, and so we were supposed to go and observe the dolphins and the starfish and all those cute little sea creatures. But something actually very horrible happened instead. So I ended up going into the dolphin area, and there was this cute little dolphin. His name was Ferdinand, and he kept coming up, and he was swimming alongside me, and he was blowing water out of his cute little blowhole, and I got to pet him, and I was feeding him mackerel. And then all of a sudden, this nasty little Ferdinand grabs my arm and pulls me really hard into the fish tank and drags me downward really, really far, and keeps dragging me downward and downward, and I'm like screaming like this in the water, and all my air is coming out of my lungs, so I know I'm gonna drown. And then all of a sudden I could breathe, and the floor kind of just vaporized, and it turned into this deep cavernous world where there was lights, and it was kind of looked like a coliseum down beneath the sea. I'm like, what the heck is this? Is it supposed to be Atlantis or something? And so I keep going down further and further as I'm being dragged, and I can breathe, and it's weird. And then all of a sudden there's this shining light, and it comes closer and closer and closer, and then it's a mermaid. Like a merman, actually. And he's really good looking, actually. His name was... I don't really know how really to comprehend or whatever the heck his name is. But yeah, so he was very handsome, and then he kind of grabbed my arm, and I felt this warmth, and my whole body turned into this mermaid. And suddenly I wasn't wearing anything on top, and it kind of disturbed me. But then my hair had grown really long, so that was okay, and it was protecting certain areas, and nobody could see that I was like entirely naked. So I'm like, okay, well, I can kind of deal with this. This is kind of fun. So we're swimming around, and we get down, and we meet this king below the sea, and I'm like, this is so Little Mermaid-like. This is just so strange. And the king kind of talks to me, and it sounded like... At first, that's all it sounded like. But all of a sudden, I could understand what he was saying. And he kind of said, welcome, young lady. It's nice to meet you below this cavernous world. And we want to welcome you into our little tribe. And we are glad now that you are a mermaid like us. And I'm like, well, when can I go home? He's like, oh, well, you know, it's actually quite stupid above there, and there's a lot of, carcinogens and awful things, and this is just a purist colony where we can just all enjoy happily in life. I'm like, you guys, what was like the hippie movement? That was the 1970s, where have you guys been? And he didn't understand a word I was saying, but then he said, well, every person down here is betrothed, and you're supposed to be married, within the first 12 hours that you come within our colony. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to marry anybody. And I'm like, well, at least if I have to marry somebody, it'd be nice to marry this, or whatever the heck his name is. But the king had said, no, that's actually not the custom here. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, well, it's customary for everybody to marry a fish. I'm like, a fish? What do you do with a fish? And so apparently they had gotten this big, gigantic... I don't even know, it looked like a flounder / mackerel / something crazy, and it had this antenna right here, and it had a bobble, so it was a mixture of several different types of fish. And they said, well, now you can sit and have this gorgeous feast with us, and we will send you off to your bed chambers. I'm like, bed chambers? This is just some really freaky, not okay crap. And so we get to the bed chambers afterwards, and this relationship was very awkward to talk about, but... I ended up kind of having this big belly of these moving jelly-like things, and then within 13 hours, they kind of came out in these little eggs. And so I had like a million little fish babies that were swimming around ready to break out, and they break out of their little capsules, and I find out that the king wanted them because he eats them. All of them. And he's kind of a tyrant king. And he's going to kill them all. And they kind of look like human beings. They've got like my face on them. And they've got this long body that looks like a flounder / shark. Who knows? And I felt so bad and horrible. And so he started eating them. And I couldn't handle it anymore. And so the nice little guy kind of saved me. And I grabbed onto his fins. And he took me up back to the surface. And everyone had already gone home from SeaWorld. But it was alright, and I shrunk back and I turned into a human again, and I never want to meet any mermaids ever again. It was a very scary and strange situation. And very uncomfortable as well. That's all I have to say.